War and Peace, a complete summary of Tolstoy's epic masterpiece. Have you ever stood before a mountain of literature, perhaps Leo Tolstoy's monumental War and Peace, and felt both awe and apprehension? It is a book synonymous with grand scale, profound insight, and let's be honest, an intimidating length. It is a novel that many aspire to read, but few manage to complete. Its vastness often overshadowing its incredible human drama and timeless wisdom. Yet within its pages lies not just a story, but an entire universe. A universe where personal fates intertwine with the destiny of nations, where love and loss play out against the backdrop of world-altering conflict, and where the very essence of human existence is questioned and explored. Today, we embark on a journey not just to summarize this epic, but to truly understand its beating heart. We will unravel the intricate tapestry that Tolstoy wove, taking you through the lives of unforgettable characters, the rigid halls of Russian aristocratic society, and the brutal, chaotic battlefields of the Napoleonic Wars. Our core purpose is to provide you with a complete and comprehensive summary of War and Peace, meticulously detailing its plot, introducing its unforgettable characters, and illuminating the profound historical and philosophical insights that make it one of the greatest novels ever written. Why is this journey important today, more than a century and a half after its publication? Because War and Peace is not merely a historical novel. It is a mirror reflecting the eternal human condition. It asks us fundamental questions about free will versus destiny, about the nature of heroism, and about where true meaning and happiness can be found amidst life's chaos and suffering. In an age filled with rapid change, global conflicts, and a constant search for identity, Tolstoy's exploration of human resilience, the impact of war, and the quest for spiritual truth remains profoundly relevant. The novel's characters grapple with ambition, love, disillusionment, and spiritual awakening in ways that echo our own struggles. It challenges us to look beyond superficial narratives of power and glory, and to recognize the quiet dignity and immense collective force of ordinary lives. By the end of this video, you will not only have a clear understanding of the entire plot of War and Peace, but you will also grasp the intricate philosophical arguments that underpin it. You will meet Pierre Bezukhov, the searching intellectual, Prince Andrei Bolkonsky, the disillusioned idealist, and Natasha Rostova, the vibrant embodiment of life itself. You will witness the grandeur of Russian society, the terror of battle, and the burning of Moscow, all through Tolstoy's masterful storytelling. This deep dive will save you hundreds of hours, providing you with the essence of this literary giant, equipping you to engage in conversations about it, and perhaps even inspiring you to pick up the full novel yourself. Join us as we unlock the secrets of War and Peace, a story that remains as vital and compelling today as it was in Tolstoy's time, offering timeless wisdom on how to live, love, and find meaning in an ever-changing world. This is not just a summary, it's an invitation to a profound intellectual and emotional experience. Context and background: Leo Tolstoy, born in 1828 into an old Russian aristocratic family, was uniquely positioned to write an epic like War and Peace. His own life experiences, including his service as an artillery officer during the Crimean War, provided him with a visceral understanding of battle and its psychological toll. This personal insight, combined with extensive historical research he poured over historical archives, military records, and personal memoirs, allowed him to craft a narrative that felt both deeply personal and historically monumental. Tolstoy wrote War and Peace between 1865 and 1869, a period when Russia was undergoing significant social and political reforms, including the emancipation of the serfs. His evolving philosophical and religious views, which often critiqued societal conventions and emphasized spiritual truth, were deeply embedded in the novel. The novel is set against the tumultuous backdrop of the Napoleonic Wars, specifically focusing on the campaigns from 1805 to 1812, culminating in Napoleon Bonaparte's catastrophic invasion of Russia. This era was a crucible for European identity and Russian national consciousness. Napoleon's ambition had reshaped the continent, and Russia, a vast empire grappling with its own internal challenges, found itself at the heart of this global conflict. The Patriotic War of 1812 against Napoleon became a defining moment in Russian history, solidifying a sense of national unity and resilience. War and Peace primarily follows the fates of three aristocratic families, the Bezykovs, the Bolkonskis, and the Rostovs. These families, though fictional, represent different facets of Russian aristocratic society in the early 19th century, with their wealth, social obligations, and distinct moral compasses. The story begins in 1805, during a high society soiree in St. Petersburg. Here, we are introduced to Pierre Bezyakov, an illegitimate son of a wealthy count, an awkward, intellectual, and initially aimless young man. He is kind-hearted but naive, often bewildered by social conventions. Upon his father's death, Pierre unexpectedly inherits an immense fortune, instantly becoming one of Russia's richest men. This sudden wealth thrusts him into the center of aristocratic intrigue. He is manipulated into marrying the beautiful but shallow Helene Kuregina, a woman known for her cold ambition and promiscuity. Their marriage is a disaster, symbolizing the superficiality and moral compromises prevalent in high society. We also meet Prince Andrei Bolkonsky, a brilliant and ambitious young aristocrat married to the charming but delicate Lise. Andrei is deeply dissatisfied with the empty rituals of St. Petersburg society and yearns for glory and purpose. He decides to join the Russian army as an aide-de-camp to General Kutuzov, hoping to find meaning in military heroism. He leaves his pregnant wife behind at his father's austere estate, Bald Hills, which is managed by his rigid, philosophical father, Prince Nikolai Bolkonsky, and his deeply religious, gentle sister, Princess Maria Bolkonskaya. The Rostov family residing in Moscow offers a contrasting image. They are warm, spontaneous, and less concerned with social decorum than the Bolkonskys. The family includes the elderly Count Ilya Rostov and Countess Natalia Rostova, who preside over a lively, loving household. Their children are Nikolai, Petya, Vera, and Natasha. Natasha Rostova is a vibrant, impulsive, and captivating young girl full of life and passion. Nikolai Rostov is a dashing young officer, eager for military experience and deeply devoted to his family. The narrative quickly shifts to the war front in 1805. Prince Andrei participates in the Battle of Austerlitz, a major defeat for the Russian and Austrian armies against Napoleon. On the battlefield, Andrei, seeking personal glory, leads a charge with a standard in hand but is severely wounded. As he lies bleeding, he gazes up at the vast, indifferent sky, a profound moment that shatters his illusions of heroic grandeur. He realizes the pettiness of human ambition against the backdrop of eternal nature. He is captured by the French but later released, presumed dead. He eventually returns home to find his wife, Lise, dying in childbirth. Her death, coupled with his battlefield experience, leaves him deeply disillusioned and cynical. He retreats to his estate, dedicating himself to his son and estate management, avoiding public life. Pierre, meanwhile, continues his search for meaning after his disastrous marriage. He becomes interested in Freemasonry, believing it offers a path to moral improvement and societal reform. However, he soon finds the Masonic order to be plagued by hypocrisy and superficiality, mirroring the society he had hoped to escape. Despite his efforts to implement reforms on his estates, he achieves little success, further deepening his sense of existential confusion. The Rostovs also experience the strains of war. Nikolai Rostov participates in battles, experiencing both the thrill and the terror of combat. He is wounded and eventually returns home on leave, where he continues his flirtation with his cousin Sonia, a gentle and devoted orphan raised by the Rostovs, and develops a deeper relationship with her. However, his family's financial difficulties, exacerbated by his father's poor management, cast a shadow over their joyous home. Young Natasha experiences her first serious romance with Prince Andrei, who, after years of seclusion, is drawn back into society by her vibrant spirit. Their engagement is agreed upon, but Andrei's father demands a year's delay for the engagement period. This separation proves challenging for Natasha. During Andrei's absence, Natasha, still young and impulsive, is infatuated by the manipulative Anatole Kuregin, Helene's brother. She almost elopes with him, a scandal that deeply shames her and devastates Andrei when he returns. Andrei, heartbroken and furious, breaks off their engagement. This period marks a profound turning point for Natasha, as she experiences deep shame and suffering, leading her to a period of spiritual reflection and growth, aided by the pious Princess Maria. This complex interplay of personal lives, societal expectations, and the looming shadow of war forms the detailed backdrop for the novel's philosophical inquiries and its epic sweep into the events of 1812. Core narrative and analysis. The narrative reaches its climax with Napoleon's invasion of Russia in 1812, a colossal undertaking involving the largest army Europe had ever seen. Tolstoy meticulously depicts this historical event, not as a glorious campaign, but as a chaotic, brutal, and ultimately futile endeavor. Napoleon, whom Tolstoy consistently portrays as a self-absorbed figure driven by vanity and an illusion of control, believes he can dictate history. Yet Tolstoy fundamentally challenges this great man theory. He argues that history is not made by singular, powerful leaders whose actions are the sole architects of events. Instead, history is an organic process, an emergent property of the collective will and seemingly insignificant actions of countless individuals. Napoleon, in Tolstoy's view, is merely a product and symbol of larger forces, a straw man swept along by the current of events rather than its master. The climax of the 1812 campaign is the Battle of Borodino, one of the bloodiest single-day battles in history. Tolstoy's depiction is not a strategic overview from the general's tent, but a visceral, ground-level experience. We witness the confusion, terror, and sheer scale of human suffering from the perspective of characters like Pierre and Nikolai. Pierre, driven by a desire to understand the war, visits the battlefield and observes the chaos firsthand, witnessing the raw courage and stoicism of the common Russian soldiers. He is profoundly affected by their simple patriotism and resilience. Prince Andrei, having rejoined the army despite his disillusionment, commands a regiment at Borodino. He understands that the outcome will be decided not by brilliant tactics, but by the spirit of the army, the collective will to fight and endure. He is again gravely wounded during the battle, experiencing another profound existential moment. Lying in a field hospital, he encounters Anatole Kuregin, his rival, also mortally wounded. In a moment of transcendent compassion, Andrei forgives Anatole, realizing that love and mercy are far more powerful than hatred and resentment. This near-death experience deepens his spiritual understanding and leads him towards a peaceful acceptance of death. Following Borodino, the French advance on Moscow. Instead of defending the ancient capital, the Russian army, under the command of the enigmatic General Kutuzov, retreats. Tolstoy portrays Kutuzov not as a brilliant strategist, but as a leader who understands the collective will of his people and the inexorable forces of history. He intuitively grasps that the French invasion is doomed, not by a single decisive battle, but by the slow, collective resistance of the Russian people and the vastness of the land. Moscow is abandoned, and soon after, it burns. Tolstoy depicts the burning of Moscow not as a strategic act planned by either side, but as an almost inevitable consequence of historical forces and the spirit of the nation refusing to yield. The fire, whether accidental or deliberately set by patriotic Russians, devastates the city. Pierre, driven by a confused impulse to assassinate Napoleon, remains in Moscow during the French occupation. He witnesses the looting, the suffering, and the collapse of social order. He is eventually captured by the French and experiences the harsh realities of a prisoner of war. During his captivity, Pierre undergoes a profound spiritual awakening. He meets Platon Karateev, a simple, uneducated peasant soldier. Karateev embodies a practical, intuitive wisdom, a deep connection to life, nature, and God, and an unwavering acceptance of suffering. Karateev's gentle fatalism and his ability to find joy in simple things deeply impact Pierre. teaching him the value of humility, love, and living in harmony with the natural flow of life. Pierre realizes that true happiness lies not in grand intellectual schemes or societal approval, but in simple human connection, compassion, and the acceptance of life's inherent truths. This experience strips away Pierre's intellectual arrogance and societal pretenses, leaving him with a genuine, heartfelt understanding of existence. Meanwhile, the Rostovs, like many other aristocratic families, flee Moscow, taking wounded soldiers with them. Natasha, still recovering from her scandal with Anatole, dedicates herself to nursing the wounded. In a poignant moment, she recognizes the gravely wounded Prince Andrei among them. Their reunion is filled with unspoken understanding and forgiveness. She nurses him with tender care, staying with him until his peaceful death. His death, portrayed as a spiritual liberation, is not a tragedy but a transition to a higher state of understanding, a testament to the novel's exploration of life and death as interconnected parts of a greater spiritual journey. The French army, decimated by the Russian winter, partisan attacks, and a scorched earth policy, begins its disastrous retreat from Moscow. Tolstoy emphasizes the sheer misery and disintegration of the French forces, portraying them as a struggling, starved mass rather than a disciplined army. Nikolai Rostov distinguishes himself in the pursuit of the retreating French, further solidifying his military reputation. After the war, the characters begin to rebuild their lives. Pierre, profoundly changed by his experiences, returns to society with a newfound sense of purpose and inner peace. He finds a kindred spirit in Natasha, who has matured greatly through her suffering and experience of love and loss. They fall in love and marry, forming a union based on mutual understanding, deep affection, and a shared spiritual journey. Natasha, once the vivacious girl, settles into the role of devoted wife and mother, embodying the force of life that transcends historical turmoil. Princess Maria Balkanskaya, after the death of her father and brother, finds solace and love with Nikolai Rostov. Their marriage unites the Bolkonskys' intellectual depth and spiritual piety with the Rostovs' warmth and emotional honesty, symbolizing a hopeful future for Russia, one rooted in genuine human connection and family values rather than superficial status. The novel concludes with an epilogue, further detailing the characters' family lives and Tolstoy's final philosophical reflections on history, reinforcing his arguments about determinism, free will, and the collective nature of historical events. Tolstoy's philosophy of history, woven throughout the narrative and explicitly articulated in his lengthy philosophical digressions, remains a cornerstone of the novel. He challenges the notion that history is made by great men like Napoleon or abstract ideas. Instead, he posits that history is the result of the innumerable, often imperceptible, forces at play, the sum total of countless individual lives and actions, like a continuous flow of a river. Individual leaders, no matter how powerful, are merely instruments or symbols of these larger, often unconscious historical movements. True understanding, Tolstoy suggests, comes from recognizing the interconnectedness of events and the underlying forces that shape them, rather than attributing everything to the genius of a few. This sweeping narrative of personal transformation and grand historical forces makes War and Peace a truly unparalleled work of literature. Deep insight and reflection, War and Peace transcends its historical setting, offering profound insights that resonate deeply with our contemporary world. Its exploration of history, personal growth, and societal critique remains remarkably relevant to individuals and societies today. Firstly, the novel offers a powerful model for understanding historical narratives. In an era dominated by soundbites and simplified explanations, Tolstoy's critique of the great man theory challenges us to look beyond charismatic leaders and recognize the complex interplay of collective actions, social forces, and chance occurrences that truly shape history. This perspective encourages critical thinking about how history is written, who tells the stories, and whose voices are often left out. For instance, consider how major political events today are often attributed solely to a single president or prime minister. Tolstoy would argue that these leaders are themselves products of larger social, economic, and cultural currents, and that the collective actions and opinions of millions ultimately determine the course of events. Secondly, the character's struggles with personal growth and the search for meaning provide enduring lessons. Pierre's journey from intellectual confusion to spiritual clarity and André's evolution from cynical ambition to compassionate acceptance mirror our own quest for purpose in a complex world. They remind us that meaning is often found not in external achievements or societal status, but in authentic human connections, love, humility, and the acceptance of life's inherent flow. Think of the modern emphasis on self-care or mindfulness. These practices often seek a similar inner peace that Pierre discovers through Karative's simple wisdom. In a world obsessed with success metrics and external validation, Tolstoy's characters remind us to prioritize inner contentment and genuine relationships. For example, many people today might pursue high-paying careers or fleeting celebrity, only to find themselves unfulfilled, much like Pierre's early disillusionment with Freemasonry and his marriage to Helene. Their eventual paths to happiness lie in simpler, more profound connections. Thirdly, Tolstoy's exploration of the nature of conflict and peace provides a nuanced perspective on contemporary global issues. The novel shows that war is not just military conflict, but also internal and societal strife. While peace is not merely the absence of war, but a state of inner harmony and familial well-being. This helps us analyze current geopolitical tensions not just as clashes between nations, but as manifestations of deeper societal, economic, and ideological conflicts within and between groups. It encourages us to seek holistic solutions that address root causes beyond simply military interventions. Consider the ongoing debates about social justice and civil unrest. These are internal wars that society wages to achieve a greater sense of peace and equity, mirroring the complex internal conflicts faced by Tolstoy's aristocratic characters even in peacetime. Finally, Tolstoy's critique of materialism and superficiality in aristocratic society remains highly relevant. The novel exposes the vanity, moral compromises, and empty rituals of the upper classes, contrasting them with the authenticity and resilience found in simpler lives. This serves as a timeless reminder to question consumerism, celebrity culture, and the pursuit of external appearances over inner values. We see this critique reflected in contemporary discussions about the environmental impact of excessive consumption or the mental health crises caused by social media's curated realities. Tolstoy would likely argue that chasing fleeting trends and superficial status, much like the character's initial obsession with salon gossip and military glory, distracts us from what truly matters in life. Now, let's reflect with some thought-provoking questions. Question on historical agency. Tolstoy argues that history is driven by the collective will, not by great leaders. How does this perspective challenge or confirm your own understanding of historical events and the role of individuals in shaping them, particularly in today's world where individual influence is often amplified by social media? Question on personal meaning. Pierre and André find meaning after profound suffering and disillusionment. Do you believe that true spiritual or existential meaning can only be found through hardship? Or are there other paths to profound understanding in life? What might those paths be? Question on war and humanity. The novel portrays war with unflinching realism, showing its horrors but also moments of unexpected humanity. How does this depiction compare to modern media portrayals of conflict, and what insights can Tolstoy offer about the enduring human spirit in times of crisis? Question on societal values. Tolstoy critiques the superficiality of aristocratic society. What aspects of our own contemporary society might Tolstoy similarly critique for their superficiality or moral compromise, and why? Question on love and relationships. The novel explores various forms of love and marriage, from passionate infatuation to enduring devotion. What qualities do you think Tolstoy champions in lasting relationships? And how do these align with or differ from modern ideals of love and partnership? Question on determinism and free will. While Tolstoy's philosophical sections lean towards determinism, his characters make choices that deeply affect their lives. How do you reconcile the idea of an overarching historical force with the belief in individual free will and responsibility in your own life? Question on intuition vs. intellect. Pierre, the intellectual, finds truth through the simple, intuitive wisdom of Platon carative. What balance do you strike between intellectual reasoning and intuitive understanding in navigating your own life and understanding the world? Question on the force of life. Natasha Rostova embodies a vibrant force of life. How do you interpret this concept, and what do you think sustains such a force in individuals even amidst profound societal turmoil and personal suffering? These questions invite us to connect the timeless wisdom of war and peace to our own lives and times, making Tolstoy's epic not just a historical account, but a living, breathing guide for navigating the human experience. Outro War and Peace stands as an unparalleled testament to the human spirit's capacity for both immense suffering and profound growth. It teaches us that history is a tapestry woven by countless threads, not a single hero's decree, and that true meaning often emerges from the crucible of personal struggle and the quiet dignity of everyday life. Tolstoy masterfully blurs the lines between conflict and tranquility, showing us that war and peace are two sides of the same coin, deeply intertwined realities within the human experience. Ultimately, the novel champions an authentic search for existence, one found not in grand pronouncements, but in love, family, spiritual reflection, and the acceptance of life's fundamental truths. If this deep dive into war and peace has ignited your curiosity, there are many other avenues to explore. You might consider delving into Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Another Russian literary giant, Dostoevsky offers a contrasting psychological exploration of guilt, redemption, and moral philosophy, albeit on a much more intimate scale. He delves into the darkest corners of the human psyche, providing a different lens on Russian identity and moral questions. Clausewitz's On War, for a purely analytical perspective on military strategy and the philosophy of war, Clausewitz's seminal work offers a direct counterpoint to Tolstoy's often anti-heroic view, providing the theoretical framework that Tolstoy sometimes subtly critiques. Homer's Iliad, one of the earliest epic poems, the Iliad explores similar themes of war, heroism, fate, and human emotion, offering a classical perspective that provides fascinating comparisons to Tolstoy's 19th century epic. It presents a very different, yet equally profound, understanding of martial glory and human suffering. Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. While War and Peace is a historical epic, Anna Karenina is a profound psychological novel set in contemporary Russian society, exploring themes of adultery, social hypocrisy, and the search for happiness through the lens of individual relationships. It provides further insight into Tolstoy's philosophical and moral concerns, focusing on the intimate dramas of peacetime. We hope this journey through War and Peace has offered you not just a comprehensive understanding, but also a renewed appreciation for the power of literature to illuminate the enduring complexities of the human condition. May you continue to seek knowledge, question narratives, and find meaning in both the grand sweep of history and the quiet moments of your own extraordinary lives. Thank you for joining us on this exploration.